mention to you that this is the most popular fiction in the history of history, again, I'm not being hyperbolic. The three most best-selling publishing phenomena in history are the Bible, Chairman Mao's Little Red Book, and the Harry Potter series. And as you probably know, the film series, which has brought the story to many people who have never read a single book, is the most popular film series in history. More popular than Star Wars, more popular than James Bond, with 2 movies coming, and as you know, one of them coming very soon. And we cannot wait. But along with that, teachers and librarians know that this is a series that brought an entire generation to reading. I have friends here tonight who told me about their experience over 11 years reading this book, growing up with it. And one of the things that we're discovering, both authors and booksellers, is that we have an entire generation that we suspected would be lost to reading, who have continued to find outlets for their interest in reading because of Harry Potter. From there, it goes off in so many directions, it's almost impossible to catalog it all. There is a huge fan community that continues to be involved with this story. Websites where that receive hundreds of thousands of individual hits a month. People writing Harry Potter fan fiction. Bands playing Harry Potter music. Wizard rock, as it's called. And as Time magazine pointed out when the last film came out, besides all the kids Time wrote, there are the 40-somethings, including the President of the United States, who read the books to their children. The 20-somethings whose professors used the case of Hogwarts house elves to explicate contract law. The teenagers who were just learning to read when the first novels appeared and can now drive themselves to theaters. And the new generation of fans who, rather than having to wait years to find out what happens next, can lock themselves in their rooms and read all 4,100 pages at once. Many of you remember what it was like to finish one of these books and realize it was going to be years before you knew what happened next. Yeah. So here's the thing that impelled me to write the book. It's not a sociological study. You know, anybody could have gathered statistics. That would be easy enough to do. In my job as cultural critic, the question that I ask is, if this is the most popular fiction in history, what is it about these stories that people have found healing, exciting, that have drawn them in some way, that have taught them in some way? And as I began doing some research and to pursue this idea in earnest, I ran across the fact that often, even among the early critics of the series, they were making connections to J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. Even the earliest critics of the first novel were talking about how these fell into a tradition of British fantasy. And that opened whole doors for me because I know some things about C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. And in particular, C.S. Lewis, who is one of my favorite literary critics, a great reader in addition to being, as you probably know, a novelist. C.S. Lewis said some things about why we read that were so powerful that I thought, you know, once I begin thinking about these things in connection with Harry Potter, they're going to lead somewhere. C.S. Lewis once said that particularly for things we go back to over and over again. I know that there are people here tonight that have read these books or seen the movies on a number of occasions. And what C.S. Lewis had to say about that was brilliant, because he knew from his standpoint, both as a writer and as a critic, that what we do when we read, we do different things at different times. When we read something the first time, we want to know what happens. And if you had gone to a Harry Potter movie and seen it the first time, you want to know what happens. How is the plot going to develop? But when you go back to it for a second and third and fourth time, you know whether Harry is going to survive. And in fact, since you know there are 7 books, you're pretty sure he's going to survive at least till the end. There'll be a truth in advertising problem with all of the books after the one you're reading. And so what C.S. Lewis posited was this. The stories that we come back to over and over again, the stories that we love, the stories that we think of as a central part of our lives, We read, and it has very little to do with plot. Plot, C.S. Lewis said, is the net that the important things are caught in. And so when I began to think about this and how Harry Potter had been moving and inspirational in my own life, I began to think about those things that might have been caught in the net. And began to think, this probably accounts for why so many people love these stories so much.